Hello, friend, and welcome to Daily Treasure, a devotional podcast by Sharon Betters, produced by Mark Inc. Ministries. This week, our guest writer is Aurora Fernandez. Today's devotional is called God's Beauty and Godly Beauty, a Beautiful Partnership. God's Beauty, Adorned with Worship. And today's treasure, Jesus said to them, "Why are you bothering this woman? She has done a beautiful thing to me." Matthew 26:10. Today, let's dig into that sometimes confusing verse. Charm is deceptive and beauty is vain, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Proverbs 31:30. When we hear the word vain, most likely we think of the definition, having an exaggerated sense of self-importance, conceited. But the word is from the Latin vanus, which means empty. This is what the writer of Ecclesiastes has in mind when he laments. "Vanity of vanities," says the preacher. "Vanity of vanities. All is vanity." Ecclesiastes 1:2. He is not saying that everything is conceited, but that everything is fleeting, like a vapor or breath. So it's not that external beauty has no value, but that it's temporary. It doesn't last. In contrast, remember from yesterday's study that a gentle and quiet spirit, fear of the Lord, is imperishable. This is borne out by Jesus' words about the woman in Matthew 26:10, who poured very expensive perfume over Jesus' head. Truly I tell you, wherever this gospel is preached throughout the world, what she has done will also be told in memory of her. Verse 26:13. And 2,000 years after her beautiful act of worship, her story is still being told. That's beauty that lasts. When the church worships rightly, she is beautiful with a lasting, eternal beauty. Jeremiah 31:4 says, "Again I will build you, and you shall be built, O Virgin Israel. Again you shall adorn yourself with tambourines, and shall go forth in the dance of the merrymakers." To adorn something means to make it more beautiful. Where else do we see tambourines and dancing? After the Lord had rescued the Israelites from the Egyptians, Miriam, the prophetess, the sister of Aaron, took a tambourine in her hand, and all the women went out after her with tambourines and dancing. Miriam led the women in worship as she sang, "Sing to the Lord, for he has triumphed gloriously. The horse and the rider he has thrown into the sea." Exodus 15:20 and 21. We worship in response to what the Lord does. Notice that the Israelites were celebrating that the Lord had rescued them from the Egyptians. And the woman in Matthew was worshiping Jesus, as he said, by preparing him for his burial, which would take place because of his work on the cross. Until the Lord returns, all of our worship will take place under the shadow of the curse. The greater the darkness, the brighter the light of our worship will shine. Several years ago, my granddaughter, Ava, who was alive and healthy on the Thursday before her birth, was strangled on her umbilical cord the next day, Friday. But none of us knew that. When she was born on Sunday, she was already living in heaven with her Lord, while our family plummeted down to the deepest, darkest valley of the shadow of death. One morning, a few days after Ava's funeral, I was upstairs in my daughter Catherine's home when I heard a sweet voice singing. I stopped what I was doing and listened as Catherine, Ava's grieving mother, sang, "Great is thy faithfulness, O God, my Father. Morning by morning, new mercies I see. All I have needed thy hand hath provided. Great is thy faithfulness, Lord, unto me." I was stunned. All she had needed, Lord, really? She just buried her daughter. I thought to myself, even as I knew that Catherine had stepped onto holy ground, and she had a heavenly audience. Have you ever considered how extraordinary worship offered during suffering is? Thomas Paine said, "It is dearness alone that gives everything its value." While angels continually worship God, they cannot worship while they suffer because they do not suffer. Surely, they marvel at such a strange offering, and our window of opportunity to offer this gift of worship is finite. Once we step into glory, our suffering will be over. Dear one, take any chance you are given to worship while you suffer. The sweet perfume of this worship is exceedingly precious to our Lord. Faithful Father, thank you for providing all we have needed. Give us eyes each morning to see the beauty of your new mercies for the day.
Friends, thanks so much for joining us for this Daily Treasure podcast. As always, we are eager to share with you all kinds of resources that are designed to help turn hearts toward Jesus and to help us walk by faith. And one of those is our Help and Hope podcast. You know, one of the hardest pains for a parent to endure is when a child makes dangerous choices that are sure to lead to life-changing consequences. Our guest on our podcast this week is Judy Douglas, and she is the author of When You Love a Prodigal. She knows this anguish firsthand, and yet her story focuses on how parenting her son Josh drove her to the heart of Jesus, where she learned truths about herself and the life-transforming power of God's grace. And friends, it was in the darkness that Judy discovered the power of prayer and is the founder and host of Prayer for Prodigals, an online worldwide community for those who love someone who is making destructive choices. You can hear the rest of Judy's story by going to helpandhopenow.org. And when you go there, you can also find links to her ministry, Prayer for Prodigals, just in case you may be one of those who is praying for your prodigal and will receive so much comfort and encouragement by linking arms with people across the world who are praying for their prodigal children. Thanks so much for joining us, and I look forward to being with you tomorrow.